masters of horror.
Of the horror genre, this is spooky time number 11, and this is Mike Campbell joined by
Liz
Eric
Williams.
Lee.
and
At the
Liz
same
Williams.
Kind of
time.
randomly
Eric Lee
pointed.
and Liz
Yeah.
Williams. Eric Lee and
because
Liz Williams.
Mike
tonight we're
pointed
gonna be-
up
tonight-
where the pictures kind of merged together.
Oh, sure. Tonight we're celebrating Liz reminded us this is the 20th anniversary of House of a Thousand Corpses. So buckle in, Eric, because the next half hour we're talking about House of 1,000 Corpses. No, we're not talking about that.
Can you believe
Oh,
it's
that's-
been
we're gonna
20
save
years
that.
that Rob
We're gonna
Zombie's
save- yeah.
been
We're gonna save that.
putting
That's
himself
too
on
special to
us.
be packed into
special.
15 minutes.
we
Yeah.
don't have that kind of time.
So
No.
special.
But what are we talking about today, Eric? I know you had some things you wanted to
Yeah.
get off your chest and out there into the ether, because there's some very special things that dropped into the ether this week. Yeah.
Yeah. Liz and I, I'm still coming down from the festival high.
Right.
Going
Go
through
listen
festival
to
withdrawals.
The podcast from last week that we
Yep.
dropped, that where
Just
you
a
guys
couple
cover
days ago,
every
actually,
last
yeah.
element. Yeah.
And so no need to really do the recap on it, other than to say that I really love going to festivals, and this was probably the best one since 2018. Might even be better than it might be the best one I've ever been to relative to the quality of the films that were delivered.
Holy moly! Best festival you have ever been to.
Yeah. I think
Wow.
I've got 2 5-star films. I got a 4.5-star, and then 3 other 4-star films that I saw.
All right.
But if you want to know what they are, you're gonna have to listen to our other
Yeah.
podcast.
Go back.
There was a couple 4-stars in there you were awful generous with. I won't even say which ones.
I know I liked one of them a lot more than you did. You said one of them was really boring. I actually really liked it. Yeah. So in fact, to the point where you were afraid to actually post a review on one of the ones that I really liked. So but also, if you had posted that, our one of our friends who is a regular at the podcast. Anyhow, you're gonna have to listen into the podcast to get my opinion, and if you want Mike's opinion, you're gonna have to call him, and I'll give you his phone number if you need it.
The landline.
So the special things that did land are, one is a movie that all 3 of us really liked. I'm throwing and you can read Mike's review of Talk to Me, which debuted actually at Sundance, then went to South by Southwest, and then went to Overlook. It's tearing up the festival circuit, and this was the special screener at Overlook. Mike, you gave it how many?
4.5.
I'm giving it 5. But I probably should dial it back. I should dial it back because the Foley work sucks.
Yeah, the sound sucks. So that's a half star.
Here's why I gave it 4.5. The end doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah. But
we talked about that at length after South by Southwest, and I kept going. So is she a genie? Is she a demon? Is she in another spirit realm?
Is she dead? I think that's the big thing.
Yeah,
I think that's the overriding question. I think the answer is yes.
But don't listen. We're not spoiling Talk to Me for most of the people who have not seen it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
July
that's
28th. July 28th.
But if you want to get a better look at what we're talking about, the trailer just dropped this week. And it's a short, quick one. The people at A24 really know how to do a trailer. And for me, I had to do the veil of cowardice many times. I was sitting there waving at the screen. Liz pretty much enjoying
Eric was just
watching
like,
me.
Teenagers are stupid. Like, yes,
like, what are
are.
you doing?
Yes, they
Don't
are.
do it. Check your watch. You know the rules.
You go home. Yeah.
And but in order to understand sort of what I'm talking about, the trailer does a pretty good job of actually giving you enough information to get you to the theaters Take it from all three of us. It's a really good watch. It will have you thinking and debating like we were just doing 30 seconds ago. Check that one out. There was another
but
one.
I think we'll be talking about it at the end of the year.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
it's gonna be.
Oh yeah, no,
that's my prediction.
Yeah, I really do think this is a movie that's going to break out wide amongst horror audiences. I don't think it's going to make a big impact on non-horror audiences because it's just too much. I think it is going to be too intense for your general population. They're not going to be able to handle it, and I guess I've said scariest movie I've seen since Hereditary. So
woo, Eric's throwing down the gauntlet, horror fans.
So horror fans, go check it out.
You can't handle it.
It's more. And really, it's more about the intensity and the situations than the gore. It's just really, really intense.
Yep.
In the way that I'd say the same thing about Hereditary.
Yep.
All right. And then the second thing I wanted to make mention of is a movie that I'm really looking forward to is the Andre Overdahl production, which is Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Mm-hmm.
They just put out a trailer. Universal production, big budget. Our friend David Faustino-ish is in it. Liam Cunningham from Game of Thrones is in it. They need to get the A24 trailer guy on board because it's a pretty sluggish trailer.
It does not make you want to get your butt in the seat, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And
they need John Foley is what they need.
That's right, John. Yeah. You need to give him some advice.
Yep.
Yeah. Come on.
Because
punch it up a little.
Based upon the story, which is about the transport of Count Dracula from Romania to London, as Bram Stoker had suggested in his novella, and this is the fate of the crew who had to take him along. It doesn't go well, but they dragged that poor trailer out. Lots of stuff in a ship, so there's going to be a lot of dark, wet spaces. I think an extended discussion, more exposition, would have probably been a better way to handle it.
And you put this on your looking forward to for 2023.
As did Joseph.
And
Joseph. All right.
Because it's the provenance on this thing. It's
got Draculas.
Yeah, and we love us some David.
We don't love Draculas.
No, but if you want more trailer stuff, you can
I don't love Draculas.
to our episodes that we had John Foley, trailer maker, on, which are episodes. God damn, these Roman numbers.
Yeah.
Ooh, C is 110, 5, 6, 116 and 117. Our favorite horror trailers. We did it in 2 parts. So just look on our site and search to make sure that those Roman numerals are right. I think they are.
And the other thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is something that I hipped Liz to when I went down, and this is a book.
Mm-hmm. Very cool book. The book of horror.
What?
The Book of Horror: The Anatomy of Fear in Film by Matt Glasby.
Hi, Matt.
All right.
This book is right, and Mike, this is super cool. They break down horror movies by
new ones too.
Very new. It's the movies that they do that he talks about: Psycho, The Innocents, The Haunting, Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, Blair Witch, The Others, Wolf Creek, Wreck, Lake Mungo, Martyrs, Babadook, It Follows, Terrified, Hereditary. They talk about a bunch of these, and they describe it in terms of why the movies are scary. It's like the psychology of the scary in film. And it talks about the way that directors and cinematographers and storytellers go about crafting a horror movie through dead space, the subliminal, the unexpected, the grotesque, dread, the uncanny, and the unstoppable. And the book marks every movie with the moments, and he says this is where these elements come into play in a chronology of the film. They have these these cool charts.
I think those are all movie titles too, by the way.
They probably are.
And it's just, and it talks about there's these fun things like this is the breakdown for Psycho. It's like at the 15 minute mark, it's the meddling cop. At the 28 minute mark, it's the mother, which is the uncanny thing where Tony Perkins sees or is dressed as his mom, and it's an uncanny element and then which is at the 47 minute mark, which is the big moment, and that's the big spike.
Is that really 47 minutes into the film?
Yeah, and that's when
I thought that was like the opening.
That's when Janet Leigh gets the old 1-2-1-2.
Oh.
So anyhow, it's a really interesting analytical book about how good horror movies get scary.
2023 release? 2022 release?
This book, it's got to be a 2021, I think.
2021. Okay. Is there
because the most current one in here is It Chapter 2.
Okay. Should everyone expect a review on the website coming shortly from Eric Lee?
Indeed.
Yeah. That's a yes. That's a yes.
Book report from Eric Lee.
All right. It's coming. All right.
Okay. I'm going to go.
All right.
I've got two things also. The first thing I'm going to talk about is I am not going through festival withdrawal because right now I am virtually covering Panic Fest that started today and is really going to kick off tomorrow with their hybrid in-person and virtual components. So tonight, the fans in Kansas City, Missouri are seeing Renfield. So they're going to get to see it right after Overlook and then Trim Season. In the theater, they're also going to get things from South by and Overlook, Brooklyn 45, Evil Dead Rise, Satanic Hispanic, Artifice Girl, The Elderly. They're getting the Finnish Nazi killing movie Sisu, which stay tuned for a review for that. I'm getting a screener, but that's under a big embargo, but it's supposed to be a bloody good time. But if you cannot get to Kansas City, Missouri, you can watch the festival virtually from the comfort of your couch. And that's going to go on from April 14th to April 23rd. They have a pretty big number of hybrid films that'll be on both in person and virtual, such as Invoking Yale, Lace, the documentary Satan Wants You that Mike just covered. All the shorts blocks. And then they have a pretty good number of virtual only films, including Stag, one of our favorites. From the Portland Horror Film Festival.
Alex, hello.
Alex, hello. And glad you're doing Panic Fest. So check that out. It's panicfilmfest.com for your tickets, schedules, and merch. They have a really freaking cool logo. So you're just going to want to go check it out. Cool. They have this like screaming cat and it's completely
get a t-shirt.
Bizarre.
And Joseph just reviewed Trim Season on the website.
And he liked it better than we all thought anybody would like
I know.
So sorry.
Liz and I were thinking stoner horror. I don't know.
I don't know. So my next thing is also a book. It is called Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. Now, I am late to the S.A. Cosby party. He kind of burst onto the scene in 2020 with his second novel. It's called Blacktop Wasteland, which is a bloody and gory version of the Fast and the Furious set in like Appalachia. This one is
horror,
even bloodier and gorier, and it is about two fathers who lose their sons because they were gay and married and they think it was a hate crime, and one's black and one's white, and they band together to take revenge on the people who killed their boy. It's a little Sons of Anarchy, a little like Lethal Weapon, but with tons and tons of blood. And this guy can write. It is an action movie on the page. So the reason I'm talking about this here, because it's not horror with a capital H, is this one is going to be this author and these books are really going to be good for fans of the movies of S. Craig Zahler. I'm a big fan. So if you like Bone Tomahawk, Dragged Across Concrete, Brawl in Cell Block 99, Asylum Blackout, and Puppet Master, The Littlest Reich. You will like these books. And if you have seen any of those movies, I guess kind of minus Puppet Master, because that's just silly, you know that they are brutal, violent, just like fight movies. They're action movies with horrific violence. So if that's your bag, which
Puppet Master Littlest Reich has got some amazing horrific violence, but it is much more fantastical and
it's
silly.
much more fantastical. No one is literally brawling or dragging someone across concrete or
Liz, have you
ripping
finished
someone in half.
Have you finished the S.A. Crosby book?
Cosby, S.A. Cosby.
Sorry,
I have finished
Mr.
2 of
Cosby.
his. I have done Razorblade Tears and Blacktop Wasteland, and he has another one called My Darkest Prayer that was actually his first novel that has just been like re-released, and one coming this summer. So I am on this guy. He is really good. I will recommend everything he's written so far. He's New York Times describes him as the writer of violent noir. That's what they're calling it.
Sweet.
And violent southern noir.
Wow, very
probably
cool.
going to end up being a Cinestate film at some point, it sounds like, if it's Zoller's attached to it.
I'm reading the oh no, he's not attached to it. I'm saying these are people who like S. Craig Zoller will like these books. These haven't been optioned yet. I'm sure they are in the process of optioning everything this man has written right now.
Yeah.
For series. Because I'm reading them and I'm just trying to cast them. Of like who's this dad? Who's this dad? Stephen Dorff's gonna be in one of them. I know it. He would be perfect, but like that's my recommendation. S.A. Cosby. Get on it. Yes, a good Cosby.
The good Cosby. The good Cosby. All right, I'm gonna wrap up with a quick question to you all. This can be rhetorical or not. Who is the greatest actor to have played the Boston Strangler?
Is it David Faustino-ish?
Wrong.
Oh
no!
I
know he's in the new movie, but I don't know who plays the Strangler.
It is different David. It's David Faustino from Married with Children.
Shut up. Bud Bundy is the Boston Strangler.
Bud Bundy is the Boston Strangler. No, I was very excited to watch because Hulu just posted. In fact, I think it was the third most streamed film across all platforms, the new 2023 Boston Strangler. And I realized there was a 1968 Boston Strangler with Henry Fonda, with Tony Curtis, with George Kennedy, Murray Hamilton, Sally Kellerman. I mean, you name it. There was also, I went down the Boston Strangler rabbit hole. There have been 4. So I'm not including documentaries because there are 8 million Boston Strangler documentaries. I'm not including TV shows because there are 8 million TV shows that have dissected the Boston Strangler. But there are 4 Boston Strangler movies, and I watched every single one of them this week.
Good man. I am not familiar with the story of the Boston Strangler, and what
I wasn't either. And that's what I was thinking was so interesting, because there's so many different theories about the Boston Strangler. Some say it was one person, some say it was 2, some say it was 3, some say it was like 13 different people. Some of the Albert DeSalvo, the people that most associate with the Boston Strangler, in all these films, he's portrayed as like dumb, hyper smart, perverse, obtuse, insane. Like they give him every possible painting you could.
So they have the Boston Strangler. Was the Boston Strangler ever caught?
Watch the movie.
Watch
What's that old time life thing? Read the books. Yeah.
Read the books. But here's what I'll tell you. So there are 4. There was one in 1968, one in 2006, one in 2008, and then this most recent one that came out in 2023. And of course, the 2023 one, as Liz noted, does have David Faustino-ish as Albert DeSalvo, commonly known as the Boston Strangler. It's also got Keira Knightley. It's also got Chris Cooper. Here's my ranking of the Boston Strangler movies from worst to best, 2008, the David Faustino from the David Married with Children, Faustino as Albert DeSalvo.
It doesn't
Universally the worst possible movie. One of the worst films I've ever seen. And in fact, they are so lazy with the costuming and the design and the set work. This is a film that's set in the 1960s. You can literally see like ADT security signs on windows. At one point, they're clearly in a hotel room because it's got like a key card.
Okay.
What's it called? The Boston Strangler? Are they all called
the 2008 one is called Boston Strangler, The Untold Story.
Oh.
Because
it takes place in the future.
Yeah. There was one that came out 2 years prior to that, also pretty awful and pretty lazy. This was 2006, directed by Keith Whaley, he was a producer on Society, Bride of Reanimator, Nightwish, a lot of
work with Yuzna then
80 stuff. This one largely follows the interrogation of Albert DeSalvo, as a lot of these films do, but not by the Henry Fonda character in the 1968 version, but by this hunky detective who has incredibly long hair for somebody who was from the 1960s, but whatever.
Crazy
the third
hippie.
one, or second best, is the 2013 version that just came out. This one is pretty interesting because this largely is sort of a feminist take on the Boston Strangler, meaning it follows Keira Knightley as Loretta McLaughlin, who was the reporter who broke the story for the Boston Record American, and her sort of writing partner, who is also a woman. This is an interesting one because it spirals off into many different theories about the Boston Strangler, but unfortunately, it's kind of boring. It's really well done, but it's just kind of boring.
Informative, but dull.
Yeah, the best one is
like they tried to do like the Zodiac treatment, but that movie is not boring. Yeah,
no, that also has David Fincher at the helm, so
right.
You know.
The last one is the 1968 that had Richard Fleischer at the helm, and this one, of course, I mentioned Tony Curtis plays Albert DeSalvo. You had Henry Fonda, George Kennedy, Sally Kellerman. This one is super innovative for the 1960s, very interesting. Obviously, they got all the set design stuff down because the 13th person who was murdered in the or commonly associated with the Boston Strangler murders was in 1964. So this was only 4 years later, and it kind of covers a lot of that period and that era. I mean, obviously, Tony Curtis does a great job as Albert DeSalvo, super creepy. In this version, they play him as insane and really weird. And in fact, the idea is that he has a split personality, and he has two identities that are kind of unaware of each other, and that's what Henry Fonda is poking apart at to try to get at.
And so do they play it where he's both smart and stupid, kind of a thing, like where you were saying that there's that dichotomy of his existence?
Okay. Yep. So I will be getting up a list, promise, now that I've watched all the Boston Strangler films, and I did verify that I have watched all the Boston Strangler films. All of these are super easy to get at, save for the 2006 version, which you cannot get anywhere. I had to go to Movie Madness. Of course, they had it. They just have a DVD copy.
And you had to do a blood draw and a passport to get that
$200 deposit. Yeah. No. It's complete garbage. I don't know why anybody would rent it, and I was probably the first and last person to ever rent it at Movie Madness, but I did.
You're a completionist. Good boy.
And it's done. So stay tuned for a complete rundown of all of the Boston Strangler films ranked. Yeah.
Is the 68 film called The Boston Strangler?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So that sounds like the one to catch.
Yeah.
The 68 one, and then of course the 2023 one are both called The Boston Strangler, as is the 2006 version. The only one that's not is the David Faustino one, which is called
Married
Boston
with
Strangler.
Married with the Boston Strangler.
Married with the Boston Strangler.
Oh goodness.
All right, who is taking us out of here tonight?
Liz, have you got a quote from your book?
Let's see. On the inside of the jacket is, well, first, Walter Mosley says that S.A. Cosby has reinvented the American crime novel. And this one is a black father, a white father, two dead sons, a quest for revenge and redemption.
Oh,
what it's about.
All right. It's a close.
With a lot of violence.
Redemption.
With
a lot
and
of
revenge.
And
There you
revenge.
go. Nice.
Good night, folks.
The Masters of Horror.